Industry Development Fund, the Business Competitive Program. Let's have a look at some of the tips I can recommend to help get this grant. So $60 million is available through this grant. It's very similar to other grants that have been out in the past from the Victorian Government. So I'll just go through some of the aspects that jump out to me. So this grant will look at an existing manufacturer with an existing presence in Victoria. So if you're going to be moving from interstate to Victoria or setting up a new operation, you will not be eligible. And you're going to implement new manufacturing technologies and processes that provide a critical foundation for generating sustainable new local jobs, and including high value jobs. So this is about jobs. So if you're putting in new machinery to get rid of jobs or stay the same, you are not going to get as highly regarded as someone putting on new jobs. The program aims to create jobs, increase industry competitiveness, and help strengthen local supply chains in traditional and emerging manufacturing sectors. So anything that is emerging is going to look better than simple manufacturing. Something that jumped out at me here for eligibility, businesses that are on a growth trajectory. So look at your previous revenue and or profit or other growth metrics like sales or customer acquisition in new markets. You want to demonstrate growth trajectory. So, that would be at least 10% growth, or you'll be competing against companies that will be on a 10, 20, 30% growth trajectory. Okay, other things to note on this is eligibility is at least 20 full-time equivalent staff or have an annual turnover greater than $1.5 million. So this is not for small manufacturers, this is for medium manufacturers. Ideally manufacturers that have been around for at least 3 years. Okay, so with this grant you can get 33% of the funding up to a maximum of 500 grand. And they give the example, a project of 900, they will give you 300. The other thing that is not mentioned here, there is a rule of thumb that companies or the government has for giving out the money. So in the past, it has been around the $20,000 of grant per new employee. So that is just a little rule of thumb that I would use, if not below that. I was saying, it was 10 years ago, it was around $30,000 per new employee. It's come all the way down to around around $15,000. So the more employees you can put on per dollar ask is going to be favourable for you. So aim for at least $20,000. So you have to complete the project within 18 months of the date. The other thing is it's for capital expenditure, which is ideally manufacturing machinery, equipment or technology. It is not to build a new warehouse or anything of that nature. You can do minor building alterations. And the main reason for this is because if you build a shed or something of that nature, it doesn't need employees to be in there. But if you put in new machinery, it needs employees to run it. So that's sort of the measure that they're using here. So let's go on to the assessment criteria. So the first of all is need for government support. So demonstrate why the government support is necessary for the stated outcomes. So, and this is weighted at 30%. You need to indicate that you have enough money for part of the project, for the 67%, but not for the full amount. So there are a number of tips you can use to show that. So if you have got too much cash, you need to show how that cash is allocated to other activities. And if you don't get the government money, you need to indicate what you would do otherwise. So talk about not taking the full aspects of the project. You might be offshoring it, or it might take longer to do. If the applicant's annual turnover is more than $100 million, it needs to be a very compelling argument. So you might want to be looking, if you're a regional manufacturer, that would be good. Also look for you need to be putting on a lot of staff. And it's not just about job protection, this is about job growth. So the whole, obviously, economy has been impacted because of COVID, and we want to grow the economy now. So number 2 is job creation. Outline the number of sustainable new FTE jobs generated by the project. So look at the obviously how many jobs are credited for the project, so for the build phase, but also look, I would go probably up to 3 years out. Once the project is completed, how many jobs will you put on? I would detail what sort of roles you're putting on, how much you're paying them, what their activities are. So go to that level of detailing every job, what they're going to be doing. And once again, this is worth 30%. You want to then look at the dollar ask per job. So try to keep it below $20,000 ask per new job created for the grant that you want to get. Okay, and then other benefits. Now, demonstrate the activity will enhance the competitiveness of the business. This is obviously worth 25%. So with this grant, you want to be growing, but you have to look into the competitive neutrality. So they don't want to be seen to be giving money to you at the expense of another firm. So you need to position yourself as unique, and that it's not going to impact someone else. So the more you are exporting in your business, you're seen as unique in Australia. So look for the unique and value proposition aspects of your business or the product that you're going to make that others are not doing. You also could be doing import replacement. So obviously there's been a lot of supply chain issues, stuff coming in from overseas. If you have offshore that in the past and you want to bring that onshore, that would be seen as a good activity. Activities that will enhance the competitiveness of the sector or the supply chain. So once again, you could vertically integrate to take stuff away from overseas, away from China, things like that, bring the jobs onshore. Activities that will contribute to a broader social and environmental objectives. You could be employing, lower skilled or, people that, disadvantaged people into your employment. That would be a good angle to add to this. Environmental objectives, so other things I look for in the manufacturing is if your new machinery will help reduce waste, improve quality, have any other environmental benefits, put that into this section here. And then 15% is on the capacity and capability of yourself. So you need to look at the track record of the business. Are you growing? Have you delivered projects in the past? So I would go and write a timeline, historical timeline, go back 10 years and detail all the projects that you have undertaken within the last 10 years. I would also go and detail who the project manager of this is, detail what their relevant qualifications are and experience in managing some of those projects. They may have worked for another organisation, so detail what their experience is. And then how the project will be implemented. So talk about the project management team, how often they're going to meet, what are the reporting activities, and then detail what are the milestones throughout the project. So you might be doing equipment ordering, you might be doing, it lands on site, you might be doing some installation, some minor works. So detail all those activities in a project timeline. And then we've got the business plan. Let me just have a look at that one. So this is the project plan template that you need to include in the application. So I'll just run through some of these items that you want to cover off. Obviously, project title, make it sound catchy, something that the government would be proud to sort of announce. This section is not a part of the merit criteria. So it's not as critical, but it's more of a tick box to include in your application. So project description, talk about the key outcomes, anything you can measure. So talk about the number of jobs created, the revenue created, any other environmental benefits of the project, any vertical integration, stuff that you previously was offshore is now onshore, number of full-time equivalent staff. So obviously go through in detail the exact number and what their roles are going to be. Duration of the project, pretty easy. Start and end date, you've got 18 months to complete this project. We've got the budget. This is more of a cash flow scenario. So work out your cash flow over the 18 months and when that's going to start. I normally advise to start your project 3 months after the deadline for this grant. So we could be talking, starting October is when I would look to commence that project. Okay, so we've got some non-capital expenditure. It's going to be more focused in the capital expenditure. let's scroll through. So just split your costs accordingly. Contingency, put that in there. There's often an audit cost, maybe not in this one, to go and audit the cost at the end. So just check to see whether you can add in some audit costs for your accountant to review your expenditure. And then here are the measures that you want to put in. So how many full-time, so your current full-time, how many new ones you're going to put on, training and upskilling. So talk about the new machinery you're going to buy, how those new staff are going to be trained in that new equipment, and then also the existing staff that are going to be upskilled as well. Look at your production capacity, increase of that, reduce unit production costs, enhance the competitiveness of the business. I'd like to see how they're going to measure that one. Find a way to measure that one. And so here's the jobs over the 30 months. So it's like I said before, they're a few years afterwards. And once again, how you're going to finance this. So project funding, de-risk the project. So use internal cash sources where you can. Once you get the grant, then you can actually go and then apply for any debt finance or bank loan or other investors. But start with your own cash first, because it is de-risks the project. So if you have to go out and find debt funding or investor before the project starts, it just adds an element of risk that, well, maybe the company won't get that finance. So start with your own cash first. And then here's that project management plan. Put in as many stages as you can, just to help them manage have more greater visibility of the project. Business governance, talk about the project manager, who's managing the project, how often they're going to be meeting, who's looking after the finances, just detail all the roles involved in the business. And then risk management plan, talk about the number of risks. Do not say there are no risks to the project. I would often make this at least 10, maybe 20 items in the project. So what happens if you don't have the cash? What happens if your project is delayed? What happens if you lose a project manager? What happens if there's prototyping or commissioning delays? Any other raw materials that you need to get? Finding the staff, training. So all these things, talk about even small risks. I will detail them all, and then how you're going to overcome them. So this one I judge by volume. So put in as many as possible into this area. And there we have it. So I hope that has helped you prepare for the Business Competitive Fund.